Welcome back to Rising. Niall, what is in your notes today?
Today, we're looking at a new development in the matter of the Epstein files, a development that happened last night when Donald Trump waved the white flag and tried to call it a victory. As we all know, Trump has spent months trying to quash full disclosure of the files for mysterious reasons. Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, who supports disclosure, was summoned to the White House Situation Room just last week for a meeting. But credit where it's due, Boebert stood firm. And the same goes for Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who Trump twice called a traitor over the weekend. Greene says threats of violence, including a specific threat of a pipe bombing, followed. Greene says that Trump's quote, unwarranted and vicious attacks against me were a dog whistle to dangerous radicals that could lead to serious attacks on me and my family. We wish her safety, of course. Trump's opposition to disclosure has also featured ferocious personal attacks as well as slimy innuendos against Congressman Thomas Massie. Massie is the Republican who has spearheaded the drive for a vote in the House of Representatives, along with his Democratic colleague Ro Khanna. Now, yet after all that, the GOP was willing to defy Trump, a rare occasion indeed. The party's leaders on Capitol Hill were bracing for dozens of Republican defections in a final vote on the Epstein files. Massie predicted 100 Republicans could take his side. So Trump, staring defeat in the face, turned tail. Me against the files being released? Where'd you get that idea? That was the general gist when he tweeted, or rather Truth Social, that, quote, House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide and it's time to move on from this Democrat hoax perpetrated by radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party, including our recent victory on the Democrat shutdown. That's what he wrote on Truth Social last night. Incredible stuff. Again, let's tip our collective hats to Massie and Taylor Greene and Boebert and even Nancy Mace, the four Republicans who stood up to Trump over Epstein at real risk and won. As for the president, maybe the combination of inevitable defeat in the vote and widespread public mockery of his ridiculous stance became just too much to take. Here's part of the cold open from NBC's Saturday Night Live at the weekend.
Jeffrey Epstein, I barely knew the guy, okay, as evidenced by the thousands of pictures of us together dancing and grinding our teeth at various parties, always leering and pointing at something just off camera, probably a book we're excited to read.
The Trump impersonator there. Now, of course, it's good that Trump has finally lifted his opposition to releasing the files. Let's see them. But will we? I hope he's not just playing games. Because you see, on Friday, right before Trump made his U-turn, he called on the Department of Justice to begin investigating some people who are mentioned in the Epstein documents. Not himself, of course, and not any other Republican either. The only individuals he named were Bill Clinton, Clinton's former Treasury Secretary, Larry Summers, and Democratic mega-donor Reid Hoffman. All three deny wrongdoing, just as Trump himself does. But the problem here isn't just Trump once again ordering the Justice Department to go after his enemies, or even Attorney General Pam Bondi's meek compliance. It's also the danger that all of this is just a tactic. It could be that even after Congress votes, Trump and Bondi turn around and say, well, you see, these files are now part of an open investigation. We can't release them after all. Sorry. That would be extremely cynical, but this is Trump we're talking about. So the extremely cynical is extremely possible. It's not just me expressing this fear, it's also Thomas Massie himself. Here he is on ABC's This Week yesterday.
The president's been saying this is a hoax. He's been saying that for months. Well, he's just now decided to investigate a hoax, if it's a hoax. And I have another concern about these investigations that he's announced. If they have ongoing investigations in certain areas, those documents can't be released. So this might be a big smokescreen, these investigations, to open a bunch of them as a last-ditch effort to prevent the release of the Epstein files.
Trump didn't take kindly to the suggestion of a smokescreen. Here he is being asked about Massie's comments last night.
Mr. President, Representative Massie he's concerned that the Epstein probe you are calling for could be a smokescreen to block the release of more files. Is that the case?
Well, I don't want to talk about it because fake news like you're a terrible reporter, and fake news like you, they just keep bringing that up to deflect from the tremendous success of the Trump administration.
Who's actually doing the deflecting here? The increasingly tiresome attacks on the fake news are obviously intended to deflect Trump supporters from noticing that he didn't actually answer the question. Let's not kid ourselves. Yes, it's good that Trump has been forced to bend in the face of pressure. It's very good that Republicans were willing to stand up to him for once, and that the House is set to vote. But there are still plenty of hurdles to be cleared before we get to see the files. Let's believe it when we see it.
Very good stuff, Niall. I share Massie's concern absolutely that starting new investigations into individuals who I think we would learn more, frankly, about what, for instance, Larry Summers was up to, and some of it looks quite bad from the emails that have been deleted. Yucky, not bad in any kind of criminal sense.
Right.
I think we would learn by just having the files released at this point. Another investigation that's going to generate more documents that we don't get access to, I'm sick of it. I don't want it. This is flashbacks, massive flashbacks to the effort to release COVID origins investigations. Remember, this was something that Congress voted for and Joe Biden signed, that we would make public all the information about that the government has about where COVID came from. And instead, all we got was basically a press release summarizing that, well, these are the government agencies that think it came from a lab. I know which ones think it came from a lab. I want to know why they reached that conclusion. I want to know the specific information. For example, I can think of a number of things that would cause them to conclude that. They have evidence of people getting sick in that lab predating the initial wet market event, right? Or any confirmed cases of COVID prior to the wet market event makes it, okay, it's a lab. That's a smoking gun, especially if you have flu in that lab itself. Or that military Olympics team or whatever that was there that got sick, something like that. That would be information. That's what I want to know. I don't want to know what the FBI thinks. I already know what they think. Sorry to derail the conversation, but it's like that. I don't want a summary. I don't want a summary of the investigation documents. I want the documents themselves. That's what they should be voting to release. And there is a very real fear that this new investigation could block this. Trump is now taking the position he clearly should have taken from the get-go, that J.D. Vance and Kash Patel and so many other senior administration officials promised, which was to release them. And if it's going to look bad for certain people, I think it's just you're making it look worse, because now all eyes are on these things, when you could have argued that a much smaller subset of MAGA people are all who cared now. Now the Democrats, I think they care about it for cynical reasons, but their base, the base didn't know what Jeffrey Epstein's scandal was. Now the base knows, and the mainstream media will be covering it more aggressively.
Yeah, look, Trump has put an enormous cloud of suspicion over himself by his resistance to having these released. Had he come out with this kind of statement at the start, he could have kind of lanced the boil, assuming, of course, that there isn't anything catastrophic in the files, which, this is where the suspicion
Can you imagine
comes
something
from.
Catastrophic emerging about Trump at this point anyway? Like,
what
a man who's been accused of sexual misconduct a number of, and I'm not saying this is an anti-Trump partisan or something, but his enemies have put forth numerous things that they consider disqualifying. I hesitate to imagine. He himself has said, and he's correct, I could shoot someone on some street in New York and no one would care. Like, there's something to that. I can't imagine what would be catastrophic enough to actually doom his presidency.
Maybe. I'm getting flashbacks now to many decades ago. A governor of Louisiana said he was so far ahead in his race for re-election that the only thing that could derail him was a dead girl or a live boy being discovered in his bed. So maybe we're in that kind of category, but I don't know.
No, we're in an intersectional, post-woke time where that doesn't matter.
We shall see.
We shall see. Coming up, Bill Maher went off on Zoran Mamdani over his socialist policies and pleaded with Democrats to embrace moderate candidates. Stay with us.